Today I'm going to give you guys my opinion and how I'm for students wearing uniforms in school. So there is an ongoing debate that has gone on for a very long time. Most people, majority of parents, say no and are not for it, where there's just a very little few that are for it. I am for it. A little background on myself: whenever I was in school, I never had to wear a uniform. However, I always thought that it would bring in a lot better experience for a lot of students. I know it was an ongoing debate in my school, all the way from elementary to high school, but it was always voted against because parents felt that students couldn't express themselves and that they were limiting themselves and that it would affect them into adulthood. However, I thought not being bullied on the price of your pants or your shoes would be more effective and a more positive experience for students. So I'm going to show you a little chart over here. Basically, it broke up the country into regions, and I'm just going to show you basically how people voted. So here in the central region, about 20% voted yes for school uniforms, while 80% voted no. In the northeast region, about 20% voted yes and 80% voted no. The northwest region, about 30% voted yes, or about 60% voted yes, and then about 40% voted no. In the southeast region, about 20% voted yes and about 80% voted no. In the southwest region, about 10% voted yes and 90% voted no. And then in the west region, approximately about 20–30% voted yes and about 70% voted no. So as you can see, most places other than the northwest region voted for it. Okay, so public schools started incorporating uniforms in 1994 when the California School District of Long Beach implemented school uniforms. According to the Long Beach School District, within 1 year after the implementation of uniforms, the fights and muggings at school decreased by 50%, while committed sexual offenses were reduced by 74%. So as you can see right there, that is very high statistic-wise, and it shows and it proves that school uniforms are a positive thing. I believe students should have to wear school uniforms. That way all students are equal. Students should not have to stress over clothing to fit in and should focus more on education. From my experience in school and while talking with friends and family members, a lot of times people were not in the IT group, not that you would want to be in the IT group, but because you couldn't afford $100 jeans or, $60 earrings or whatever. Some schools have strict dress codes, which there's so much gray area in that I don't feel that it's as effective. I don't feel that, limiting students to flip-flops or earrings really does anything positive or negative. It just kind of ticks them off. So if you just take everything away and make it very black and white, I think that's more effective. The amount of bullying and crimes would decrease. In the year of 2009, the school uniform policy was effectively implemented in 21 states of the United States of America. What was found upon implementation of this policy is that the overall crime rate had dropped by 91%, children were less prone to suspension, and the rate of suspension dropped by 90%. On effective school uniforms, the number of sex offenses reduced by 96%. Vandalism was reduced by 69%. The assaults on students of children from kindergarten through grade 8 had also reduced by 85%. I also believe that students' grades would increase because they would be more focused on classes. And I find this very positive because in school, as my mother-in-law said, it's very hard and you're already under enough stress rather than having to add in more stress on what should I wear today, is my shirt too short, and going to the principal's office and all that stuff over your clothing or what your mom wants you to wear or what your friends want you to wear to fit in. It's just ridiculous for a student to have to even worry about that. The assaults on students of school uniforms also cost less. Another important factor to consider is the cost of school uniforms. Most parents believe that school uniforms cost more, and while they do appear to cost more up front, in the end you're not having to rebuy, it's all basically the same. The standard, when I looked up and researched, the standard school uniform is like khaki pants, blue pants, and white button-up shirts, sometimes even polos, or maybe even some skirts. A lot of people believe that purchasing them is very expensive, but what has been noticed in the long run is that the overall cost of clothing has drastically reduced, thereby easing the expense on parents. Statistics also show that 44% of parents have found that their kids are more focused in school after wearing uniforms. So in conclusion, I believe that school uniforms are very useful and helpful for our children. I do understand that there are positive and negatives, but the positives shown statistically prove that this is for the better. So as far as the negatives, while I was researching, the negatives showed that parents just really didn't think the kids could express themselves, that it affected them into their adult life. And I know all private schools, they wear uniforms, they don't know any better, they all seem to get along just fine as far as not really knowing any different as far as what the latest fashion is, because they can't wear it, so it's just kind of like out of mind. As far as this is not basically on school, but military are required to wear uniforms, so are policemen, and I just think it makes students look more put together. They all look uniformed, and it just looks better from the outside looking in. Like when I was talking to my husband and my mother-in-law, they said when they see a cop and they're kind of thrown together, they don't take them as seriously as somebody, even if they know their job like the back of their hand, don't take them as seriously as somebody that's nice and pressed and actually cares about what they do and their appearance. You can find that in any fast food restaurant, really pretty much anywhere. I asked my husband and my father-in-law about uniforms in the military, which granted everybody knows, the classic uniforms for each branch of military, and I asked them, it might sound like a silly question, but what if military wasn't mandated to wear uniforms? And like they both said, that basically you wouldn't know who's who, it'd be chaos, it's just more uniformed, and it's a lot easier for everybody just to be uniformed. They're all equal, they're all the same, they just do their jobs, and that's it. So that is the reasons why I am for uniforms. I think there is more positive than there is negative. I haven't had to experience with wearing uniforms, and my child's not old enough yet, but I do feel like when she gets to school, I would much rather her wear uniforms than not, or even over a stricter dress code. So that is my beliefs and thoughts on uniforms in school. So what do you guys think, yay or nay on school uniforms? Thank you.